greed and fear are the things that derail the investment plan. And so what we're trying to impress upon people is succumbing to those urges. That's going to be the most difficult piece that investors are going to have in staying investors and not, kind of derailing themselves into the speculative landscape that we talk about. I'm going to share with you a story from the 1700s. So this is a fellow by the name of Sir Isaac Newton. Now, he took a little bit of his money, actually a pretty good chunk of his money, and invested it along with a lot of other wealthy people of the time. Now, he did really well. So he exits happy. What do you think happens next? What happens when you exit an investment like this and it continues to go up? You start to feel regret, right? So what does he do? Well, he re-enters. It was well documented. He loses the 20,000 pounds plus his original investment. Newton's experience with that particular investment, I think, was very apropos for this presentation, to highlight the challenges we all face in disarming this investor behavior problem that we all are wired with. Decision making is happening in all facets of our lives, like all the time, going to the grocery store, driving to work, and more complex situations. And one of the things that the literature is fairly clear on is when faced with decisions where the outcome has a lot of uncertainty around it and the stakes of the decisions are very high, that's where the behavioral biases really creep in and sometimes lead us in very systematic ways, in other words, repetitive ways. We make the same mistakes over and over again. Leads us astray, makes us, forces us to make suboptimal decisions or just flat out, wrong decisions. So consider a coin, a single coin, flipped 6 successive times. Okay, now I want you to answer, or at least think about the answer to this question. Which is the more likely sequence? A, heads, tails, heads, tails, tails, heads. B, heads, 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 tails, tails, tails. Or C, 5 heads, 1 tail. Overwhelmingly, as you could probably guess, most people pick A. About 80%, a little bit more than that, when done in tests, pick A. Why? Because A looks like a fair coin. Why is it a trick question? They're all equally likely, right? It's a successive flip of a fair coin. We are wired to be pattern seeking, even with very limited information, and we make judgments based on that pattern seeking bias. And those judgments are not always correct because we don't have enough data, we're overconfident, we're not good statisticians. This is all stuff that has been confirmed in the behavioral psychology literature. I think it's very valuable for advisors to have these discussions with their clients constantly. Build it into their narrative with clients so that when times do get stressful, they can refer back to these conversations and say, look, we know one of the hardest things to do and one of the most beneficial things to do is not to change our game plan because of what the markets are doing. Now, plans are good. Planning is good. But planning usually works really well when markets aren't real volatile. But as Mike Tyson, the boxer, once famously said, everybody's got a game plan until they get hit in the mouth. So planning goes so far, but you have to have the ability to stick with the plan when times get really, really tough, when you get hit in the mouth. The one thing I'd want clients to take away from this narrative is the value of having an advisor. It's the planning, the investments, the asset allocation, all the things that are traditionally attached to the value of advice are very important, but hopefully they come away with, well, another big critical component of what my advisor is doing for me is they're not just creating the plan for me and with me, but they're keeping me from deviating from that plan. And maybe when I walk away from this narrative, I'm realizing as a client, that may be not as easy as I thought it was. That may be worth a lot more than I previously thought it was. And if I can leave the clients with that notion that we at Dimensional think is hugely important to convey, then I've done my job.